When Rome fell, its philosophies were supposed to die with it. The marble columns collapsed. The academies closed their doors. The voices of philosophers faded into silence. Stoicism, once the discipline of emperors and slaves, generals and exiles, vanished from history, or so it seemed. Its schools disappeared, its teachers were gone, its system, logic, physics, ethics was broken apart. And yet, something survived, not as a philosophy, not as a school, but as a discipline of the soul. In the cold stone cells of medieval monasteries, in the prayers whispered before dawn, in the acceptance of suffering as unavoidable, meaningful, and even necessary, Stoicism endured without Stoics. This is the story of how an ancient pagan philosophy lost its name, changed its foundation, and quietly shaped the moral backbone of the Middle Ages. And why, in the modern world, its shadow still follows us. Stoicism was born in Athens around 300 BCE, founded by Zeno of Citium. It taught a radical idea that the good life does not depend on wealth, power, or pleasure, but on virtue and inner discipline. The Stoics believed the universe was governed by logos, a rational, ordered principle. To live well meant to live in accordance with reason. Pain and pleasure were indifferent. Fame and poverty were irrelevant. Only moral character mattered. By the Roman era, Stoicism had become deeply practical. Seneca wrote about anger, grief, and time. Epictetus taught that freedom begins where control ends. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while reminding himself daily that everything passes. Stoicism was not optimism, it was endurance. But philosophies, like empires, depend on institutions. And institutions can fall. Between the 4th and 6th centuries, the Roman world unraveled, cities emptied, trade routes vanished, education fragmented. The philosophical schools of antiquity, Stoic, Epicurean, skeptic, closed or faded into obscurity. Christianity rose not just as a religion, but as a new intellectual framework. And Stoicism faced a problem. It was pagan. Its cosmology did not center on a personal god. Its ideal of the sage relied on self-sufficiency, not divine grace. As a system, it could not survive intact. But ideas are stubborn things. Stoicism did not lose a debate. It lost a world. The Stoics vanished, but their ethical language remained. Not through Zeno or Chrysippus, but through Roman intermediaries. Seneca, the pagan, almost Christian Seneca, was the most read Stoic in the Middle Ages. His essays on anger, suffering, death, and self-control circulated widely. So widely, in fact, that medieval scholars believed falsely that he had corresponded with St. Paul. Those letters were forgeries, but they reveal something important. Medieval Christians wanted Seneca to belong to them. Why? Because his moral vision felt familiar. Self-restraint, detachment from wealth, acceptance of suffering, the cultivation of the inner life. Seneca became a moral authority, stripped of his Stoic physics, preserved for his ethics. Christian thinkers did not adopt Stoicism. They translated it. The transformation was subtle but profound. The Stoic logos became the Christian God. Fate became providence. Rational necessity became divine will. The structure remained. The foundation changed. Where the Stoic sage sought freedom through reason, the Christian sought salvation through obedience. Where Stoicism taught emotional mastery, Christianity taught spiritual discipline. The language of the soul struggle, endurance, restraint stayed the same, only the destination changed. Saint Augustine was deeply suspicious of Stoicism. He criticized its pride, its belief that reason alone could save the soul, and yet Augustine absorbed its inward turn. The idea that the true battle is not external but internal, that passions must be disciplined, that suffering reveals the condition of the soul. Augustine's confessions are not Stoic texts, but they echo a Stoic obsession, the examination of the self. The Stoic sage became the Christian sinner, endlessly introspective, endlessly struggling, in the 6th century as the classical world disappeared. One man stood at the threshold, Boethius imprisoned, accused of treason, awaiting execution. He wrote The Consolation of Philosophy. It is one of the most influential books of the Middle Ages. In it, philosophy appears as a woman who consoles him. She speaks of fortune, suffering, loss, and inner freedom. God is barely mentioned. Instead, Boethius teaches a lesson, deeply Stoic in spirit. External things can be taken from you. Your inner dignity cannot. For centuries, monks, scholars, and kings read Boethius. They learned to endure it. If Stoicism truly survived anywhere, it was in the monastery, not as theory, but as daily practice. Monastic life demanded silence, obedience, renunciation, control of desire, acceptance of hardship. The monk rose before dawn, ate little, slept less, worked without complaint. This was not philosophical abstraction. It was discipline carved into flesh. The Stoic concept of apatheia, mastery over destructive passions, became spiritual purity, not emotional numbness, but emotional order. The monastery replaced the Stoic school. By the High Middle Ages, Aristotle dominated universities. Stoicism existed only in fragments, but those fragments mattered. Through Cicero, Seneca, and Boethius, Stoic ethics shaped medieval moral thought, ideas of duty, of moral responsibility, of endurance under suffering. The Middle Ages rejected Stoicism as a pagan system, but they lived many of its ideals. It was a Stoicism without Stoics. The medieval world was harsh. Famine, plague, war, short lives, constant uncertainty. Stoic endurance was no longer philosophical elegance. It was survival. Suffering was not avoided. It was interpreted. Pain was meaningful. Hardship was formative. Endurance was virtue. This worldview created resilience, but also rigidity. The soul was trained to bear weight. Now, contrast this with the modern world. We live surrounded by comfort, technology, instant gratification, and yet anxiety has never been higher. We avoid discomfort at all costs. We numb pain rather than face it. We chase control while feeling powerless. The medieval monk trained himself to endure suffering. We train ourselves to escape it. The Stoics asked, "What is within my control?" We ask, "How can I avoid feeling this?" Stoicism is fashionable again. Books, podcasts, social media quotes, but often stripped of context. True Stoicism, ancient or medieval, was not about productivity hacks. It was about facing reality without illusions, about accepting limits, about discipline, about moral responsibility. The Middle Ages understood this, even without Stoics. We do not need to become monks, or emperors, or sages. But we can learn that resilience is trained, not downloaded. That suffering avoided is suffering multiplied. That inner discipline creates freedom. The Middle Ages inherited Stoicism not as philosophy, but as survival wisdom. And perhaps we need it again. Stoicism did not disappear. It became prayer. It became discipline. It became endurance. It survived without its name. And today, in a world drowning in noise, comfort, and distraction, its ancient lesson still whispers, "You cannot control the world, but you can govern yourself." If this journey through ancient endurance and medieval discipline changed how you see resilience, subscribe for more long-form historical narratives. And tell me in the comments, would a medieval monk survive in the modern world, or would we fail in his? Thanks for watching.